You're listening to ArTEEtude, a podcast with artists created and produced by Detlef Schlich, a visual artist and ritual designer, living and loving in West Cork, and best known for his essay about the cause and effect of shamanism, art and digital culture. Working in the field of performance, photography, painting, sound, installations, and film, he will dive and discover with us and a weekly creative guest into the unknown and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind.
This is Detlef Schlich, and today we dive into the deep and exciting ocean, the unexpected ocean of the creative mind, together with Robert Lambert. Robert is an old friend of mine, and we already had in the last episode a great chat because things are different today. And actually, it was last week. It was already my anniversary 101. Hi, Robert.
Detlef, hello. For the benefit of our listeners, Detlef is not asking the awkward questions. I am. And I'm going to continue with Detlef's journey as an artist this week. Last week you will have heard about the early and young Detlef. Well, that was a Detlef from 0 years to about 40 years, which was in Cologne. Well, I'm assuming it was mostly in Cologne, apart from maybe the odd holiday somewhere, to where he winds up in West Cork in Ireland, which is where we both originally met. So what I'm going to do here is that obviously it's a scenario where one morning you're in Cologne and you decided, well, enough of what I'm doing here. I want to go off and do something else, somewhere else. So maybe you take us through that journey and how, of all places, you wound up in West Cork.
I mean, it was actually, this was in steps. It didn't happen like this, you know. It was, I mean, it was the first time already in the 90s here in West Cork with friends. And so I knew the area already 10 years ago before I came over here. And on a later stage, it was... how can I say? I mean, I still was writing in Germany for the German for the German television somehow, but I wasn't really happy with that, with life in the city, and I was then together with my former girlfriend, and she used to had a holiday home with her ex in Ireland. So she asked me, so Detlef, what do you think? So could you imagine life in Ireland? And it was for me somehow strange, but on the other side, I said, yeah, why not? You know, what do you have to lose here in Germany? So we started to make a plan, and the plan was that eventually to buy an old cottage and renovating it and trying to set up art over here, you know, because my former partner was as well artist. So we both came from the creative side of life.
So it wasn't a question of what you were running away from, which is a very common expression that is used in West Cork.
Yeah.
That there are a lot of people who are referred to locally as blow-ins, i.e. people who are not born and reared and with a long family ancestry in West Cork, who arrive up here, and then there is that local suspicion. What are they running away from somewhere else? Have they done something bad? In this case, what you're telling me, Detlef, is you're running away to this dream in West Cork.
Yeah, so
how did that dream work out?
It was Red Hot Chili Peppers did a song, running away, running away, running away now. It's actually giving away, you know, but I mean, it was eventually a dream. I mean, this cottage was it was an experience. This cottage is actually on the cover of the book, The North of the Mizzen, and with the green chimney. I mean, maybe you read the book.
I've heard of it, but I've not read it.
Yeah. And I mean, this house, dear listeners, you must imagine it was. There were gaps in first of all, it was full of rats, and there were gaps on the first floor, So and in the gaps were jean straws in order to avoid the drafts,
So for the benefit of our listeners, he gets what he calls a cottage, but really is probably an old barn with half a roof on it, and now it is to be turned into a home and possibly an artist studio. Comment.
No, the place is great now. So I was working 5 years on it, and I've learned a lot. My former partner, she was still working in Germany as a teacher for a while before she got her eventually her early pension because she had a burnout. So the plan was really to set it up here, but then after that somehow, then lack of money and all that. So the project, it was not. Yeah, I mean the relationships was suffering from this as well. It was a quite difficult time. Our farmer next door, he was getting very upset about us because we inherited somehow a tree-color dog, So and one problem came to the other, and so then we split.
Well,
it,
we'll move out of that dark phase.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
It's probably
so. But I must say, I mean,
you learn, but then the rest is best forgotten. I take it. Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't have no regrets. I mean that were 5 years, great times. I've learned a lot. And I was happy to live there in La Carouane at the north of the Mizzen. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of earth, but for an artist, if you only can live there if the relationship is working properly, Because I mean, I don't have a driving license, and I'm living. We had to, for instance, to shop for the listeners. 45 minutes away from Skibbereen, so actually shopping was more than less a day tour, So,
and during all of this, between the renovations and the shopping and relationship and various other things, what were you doing with your own art during this period?
At this time, I must say, it was just art at the building. So what I did is I created a place. I say it. I made a Turkish shopping center in between as well, So in the entrance between the kitchen and the living room, I made it completely the kitchen. I built it out of wood, of timber. The stairs, the floorboards. Ah, God.
Okay, now you come out of the relationship. You've come out of the cottage.
Yeah.
You're back in your own existence.
Yeah.
You're figuring out your next move.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was the next move, and where did that move take you to?
The next... God. The next move was Bali the Hub, was stage Bali the Hub. And I thought, first of all, what you're going to do, are you going to go back to Germany? Or do you want to stay here? And I loved it over here. I mean, living 5 years on such a remote place, and I must really say, if for anyone who wants to visit West Cork, behind Bali the Hub, or actually behind Skull, it turns completely into a different world. And I used to live this 5 years in this completely different world, and it was for me like living on Mars,
Well, for the benefit of people who don't live in Ireland, it's all along a journey, a road, a tourist route called the Wild Atlantic Way.
Yeah, now.
But it was even probably more primitive. They didn't even have the signposts for it then. And by the way, as the name implies, a lot of it is still fairly wild.
It is. It is, and very dangerous as well. So don't underestimate the wind and the cliffs, dear listeners. If you come and visit, stay away from it, because we had already a lot of people who were falling into the water and never seen again. So.
Well, it's not as bad as that there, but maybe there are the odd few. But no,
yeah, they're not.
We'll callously disregard the people who might fall into the water and focus on the journey that Detlef fell into as an artist.
Yeah, no, I was falling sometimes into a ditch with my scooter, not really into the water, so I was quite happy about that.
Yeah, but our listeners want to know what art came of that.
the ditchy art, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you're in Ballydehob, and I certainly remember you when you were in Ballydehob, and you were in that studio at the top of the house.
Yeah, right. I found actually I found a lovely place in Ballydehob, where I had to reconsider everything what I'm gonna do, and I thought, first of all, we started with a social club, so that was actually, the first year as I came over to Ballydehob, I had to think about that. What you're gonna do, and friend of mine they told me, you know what, you're gonna go and study. So what I did is I've applied for Schurken at the time, but because friends of mine who used to be as well in the social club, I come in a minute to that, they use or they already studied on Schurken Island, and that it is a college. It runs by Dublin's Institute of Technology, and it's a full-time course where you can study visual art, and my friends, they tried to encourage me gonna do that. So I did. I was trying to get into that, but my English was not still not perfect, and I still suffer with some grammars, but they decided that maybe you're gonna come back again in 2 years and start with the what is the FITEC level 5 in arts, craft and design. So, but first of all, I didn't get into this studying thing. So, and I was actually more supporting the social club, the Ballydehob Social Club, which was a club running by volunteers, like I think as well. You came over there, and which was eventually a great idea, So it was we had 20-30 volunteers.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
But in that time as well, so I did my FITEC level 5.
So basically, what you're saying here is that you studied bit by bit up to a point where you could go off and really go for it on Schurken Island, which, by the way, for the benefit of our listeners, is a small island in West Cork, in a place called Roaring Water Bay. It's a lovely island to visit in the summertime, and I say small, it can't have more than 100 people on it if it has that.
It has, they struggle all the time between 99 and 101.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the island itself, as I said, it is a beautiful spot. Yeah. I have been out in it plenty of times myself. It has, when there are people on it, quite a nice and lively social life. It has also become a haven for artists, and it is into this little haven that Detlef finds himself studying for what is an arts degree.
Yeah, it was great. I must say, first of all, I have to mention that as well. Don't forget that the FITEC level 5 and level 6. I've learned a lot. The courses in Skibbereen are great, and it's really for everyone who really tries to find something on a creative way, So they're all great teachers, Aisling and Paula in the FITEC level 6, and Karen McMarl, FITEC level 5. So I've learned already a lot in these 2 years before I started doing my degree course,
So when you went in to do your studies in Schurken, in particular with the Dublin Institute of Technology, what did you have in mind as being the outcome of that when you started?
First of all, I was quite interested in exploring the art practice in general. I mean, more different ways as well. You see, the problem is for everyone who is creative and who is not involved somehow in institutions, in arts institutions, you don't have a clue what is it and what's about, so what they're talking about, So for me, I thought, okay, you're gonna do that, and it will be a great experience, and you will learn a lot, So and that's the thing, I mean, I always work like on this phenomenological way that people have to surprise me, I have to get surprised by the experience, and then I can create something out of it, And that was there as well again, So I mean, I've learned a lot in critical thinking, and I had a lot of people on eye level or in discussions, and must say, what is as well, if you're not getting a place somehow in the institutions, in the art institutions as a teacher or whatever, it can become difficult to struggle as an artist, because I mean, if you have 20 people in a course, so we know all that's the tip of the iceberg. There are not many people who really get a job as a teacher,
Was there anything from an art perspective that you had in mind that you wanted to create then?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was quite creating my alter ego Transodin, and this was I really researched a lot in quantum physics, in shamanism, in transhumanism, post-humanism, and found actually a new methodology to put these things together. I wrote my thesis about shamanism, art, and digital culture. So already 2016, I found new ways of seeing and combining this different things like shamanism and digital culture, So, I mean, especially if you're looking to the Korean culture, they are actually on the same way. They now start the first state who starts the metaverse, the meta universe. I mean, that's what Zuckerberg tries to start now as well.
It's interesting. There was a lot of stuff that you spoke about back then,
Yeah.
and even then you mentioned tribalism as well.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, here he is again going on about tribalism. Yet these are all parts of the mainstream narrative today when we talk about society as well.
Yes.
But you were out on your little fringe to an extent, talking about this stuff before other people started to borrow the same terminology, which we are hearing today in the media in various guises, and sometimes in relation to conflict and various other things like that, but we'll deal with the conflict in another conversation.
Yeah.
But the practice, certainly you were learning, I think, a discipline.
Yeah, but you see
what you were doing in your study, and then learning how to use the tools as well.
You see, but it's always still a problem if you are a visionary, and if you are a utopist. I have to stress utopist because I'm not a dystopist.
Yes, a utopian for the benefit of our listeners.
Yes. But it's still always difficult if you come from an avant-gardistic background, to make money with it, That dear listeners, the society has to think about that. There are artists, they can make some money with paintings, but there are artists, they're more coming from a philosophical side of the way, but they still have a right to live, and they still have a right to create their art, so, because it's necessary to find things and to stress out things without the materialistic thinking in the background,
Well, one thing I certainly noticed what you were doing was that you had taken all of the different aspects of the art, whether it was from painting, whether it was sculpture, whether it was photography, whether it was video, whether it was sound editing. And I was looking at you and going, this man is doing an awful lot of different things here, and he's trying to knit it all together. Was this the first time that you had taken all of these things and successfully knitted it all together and written a thesis on it at the same time? In our previous conversation, you mentioned there were a lot of things that you were exploring, and sometimes you were doing a bit of this or a bit of that, but it never kind of quite found its way together. Was this the first time as for you as an artist that it actually did start to combine together in the way that you wanted?
I did it before already in Germany, but I never did it on a level like this. I never did it on this high critical thinking level. So and this is why you're studying art. Because you really learn to get to the point. For that it was great. This experience. I mean, if you look, for instance, if you look back to, I'm researching now a lot in Richard Wagner. I mean, Richard Wagner was as well somehow a fellow who used his great visionary thinking to create a immersive art, and that was always for me more necessary as anything else, so getting things together and creating something, and we say it in Germany, ein Gesamtkunstwerk, so I mean, creating a piece of artwork which is
well, we would say in England, I should say in English, that we could say it is something that is colossal or big, or even borrow the word Wagnerian almost to describe something that in art terms is big.
So they say they have already the term Wagnerian, isn't it?
That's the one.
Yeah. So yes, but then on the other hand, so if you come from the avant-garde background, it is very difficult to get money, and I mean, then we come back. So I started with my tribalism, with my opera, Tribal Loop, after my studying. I mean, in my study, I really created a new way of seeing and exploring, and methodology of creating new alter egos and I discovered a lot of in our glitch in the society, in transhumanism, and then it was a very dark chapter, So, and Tribal Loop was still a work where I thought, okay, so now I'm gonna go into tribalism, because I was very unhappy with our dear friend Donald Trump.
Yeah. Where do you see this journey leading you to? Because you're attempting to do something that is not easy, and sometimes the scale of it is difficult, and it requires time, effort, resources, cooperation, and all the other things. Where do you see this journey taking you?
Where do I see where this journey? I mean, I'm not gonna see an end. I'm just gonna making. I mean, even that was Tribal Loop. And it is, we all know, due to the glitch, I started 2 years ago to set up a crowdfunding campaign in order to get more money for that. But then COVID came, and dear listeners, I had to stop that. So I can't say that I will see an end from anything. I mean, I'm still, these projects, they are still there. I mean, I don't know how much power I have and courage to multitask in such a lot of different ways, because this podcast takes already a lot of time, and I have to motivate myself again as well every day to do the promotion, to think about new promotion ideas, to think about new podcast talks, and then end.
What is your, outside of your own art, what's your own thoughts about the state of art that is around us in general, whether we say it is at a national level or internationally, or where is it all at the moment?
I mean, due to the fact that we are in a digital revolution, so called, I think things change from materialism into immaterialism somehow. And the pandemic is part of that as well, who pushed that forward. So what I gonna do now is for me is I gonna do podcast art. I gonna use my, say, digital shamanism in order to transform my offline ideas and put it online, and people can take it offline again as well. So it's this transformation process will that will happen to a lot of other artists as well. That they understand
So you believe that COVID is actually creating this shift in a direction there for you and for others as well?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I mean,
some artists have said that it's been a disaster, whereas other people have seemed to have embraced the opportunity.
Yeah, what I say like this. Look, institutions. How many people can really exhibit in institution space? Not many, And I mean, how if especially if you live without a car and so remote and it's you have to find other ways, and this other way is probably really the digital world, the virtual world,
And what kind of ideas are the ones now that are in your head when you get up in the morning in this new space? What do you see? Kind of ones that you are saying, yes, that could be done in the context of where we're at.
I mean, I created actually my life now like that I can work wherever I am, So I mean, I can do a lot of things from my phone. I have a lot of applications on my phone, and that means when I'm waking up in the night, I'm thinking about a work which I can put online, where for Instagram, for instance, not for Instagram, for instance, Instagram is see Instagram like a sketchbook for me now, where I'm gonna put my work, and whether I like it. If I like it, so I'm gonna work on it more, and if not, it's just there, So it's the sketchbook of the 21st century for me, It took me a long time to understand that, because I mean, I'm not for the digital native, for the youngsters. For them it's an easy thing. They're gonna do that already, as young artists. But if you a little bit older, it is still a new learning curve for one, for yourself. So and I realize that now that like I say, I wake up, okay, do work on my application, have a new artwork. I mean, that takes a little bit longer than I say now.
And as you said earlier in this conversation, you have been spending quite a bit of time on podcasts, and here we are on podcast 102.
102, yes.
Now, what led to podcast number 1 in the first place? Go all the way back to the very first podcast and tell everyone what led you to do that, and when did that actually happen? What were the steps that you went through?
I mean, like I already mentioned, it was my opera was going on, and it was April, and I already had set up everything for the crowdfunding campaign. And then we saw all of a sudden the lockdown came, and I said, "Oh no, what are we gonna do?" I started already with I mean, I didn't like the social media for promotion, but I started already at the beginning of 2020 to get deeper into that as well, to understand the concept of Instagram and Facebook and as the social media in general, and I was getting aware that you, as an artist, you need it. I mean, you can't work without it. So I saw actually things like Facebook and Instagram not as enemies anymore. More than I mean, I wouldn't say friends, but it's the same. Like, look, the post office. The post office it has as well the monopoly and brings the letters. So I think. We still need for sure a socio-political discussion about that, how things like Zuckerberg, I mean, or Meta, it's Facebook is now Meta, take place in our social.
But what were the actual steps that you took in going through this and exploring it and developing your way into it?
I mean, I realized actually that's. Now it's not time for any festival and for any film festival, and I had a chat with a friend of mine, and that's dear Suzanne. Hi Suzanne, if you listen to me, and she suggested a podcast because her idea was as well a podcast, and we were talking about that, So we were talking about how she would do one, and I was thinking about that. How would make one, and then. Eventually, I started working on the concept. I mean, I started in April, May, June, July, working on the logos. There again as well, I worked on the music, on this and that and that. And I was trying to say, okay, so why not? Why not making podcast art and creating something new, immersive, a Wagnerian podcast? You know, and here we are. You know, ArTEEtude.
At what point in the process did you feel that you actually had a grip on it?
Oh, never.
It's still a learning exercise. And I let the listeners in on a little secret. Even the new little microphone cable can discombobulate everything as it nearly did before we started this evening.
Yeah. I mean, it's always. I mean, it's always just putting money into it, and it is part of my life. Yes, so it's great. You know?
And you've mentioned certainly that you've been getting a listenership, which is scattered around the world, quite diverse. You have spoken to a lot of people along the way. It seems to me you're almost making friends along the way.
Which is great. You know, I mean, you create a new network. And I mean, I have as well a charts here, and I mean, we still have a little bit of time for the top 10 of my podcast. Hang on, what I'm gonna do is I read out now the 10 top 10s of the podcast. So I start actually with number 10. So number 10 was the episode 15.3 with the Irish singer-songwriter Stuart Wilde. And we talked about Wilde's influence and inspiration. And he has number 10 with 830 listeners. Number 9 is with Ed Harper, the goat herder. And it was a great podcast. And he had already 850 listeners. Number 8, again, I went to the goat herder at Harper on Cape Clear, and we talk about his handicap in early life, because I don't know if you know him, he's blind and he's living as a blind farmer on Cape Clear. It was such a great experience. So, and this was number 8 with 850 listeners. Number 7. That was episode number 13. It was the Japanese musician Maria Murakami and Minoru Okada. And that was a great talk as well. So I had my connection in Japan. And she has now 870 listeners. So congratulations for that. Number 8 was the episode 80. That was a spoken word performance singer. Matthew Robb from England, and he was living in Cologne, and we had as well a chef in Cologne here, and he had already 880 listeners. Number 5 is the Irish singer-songwriter Lou McMahon from County Clare. She's now in Berlin, actually. Hi Lou, I hope you're well. And she has 890 listeners. Number 3, we came then to music producer Phil Wolf. He's currently still living on Mallorca, but he wants to move to Norwegian. And it was a great talk as well. And hi Phil, I hope you're well. And we have already 990 listeners for you, Phil. Congratulations. Now, drum roll, number 2. That's the episode 24.1, because at this time I was counting episodes still in 1, 2, 3 parts. Episode 24.1, guitarist and producer and composer Dirk Schlömer. He used to play with Tonsteine Scherben, founded by the anarchistic German role model of the 70s, Rio Reiser. And what did I have on? And he had as well a solo project, Cicato. And there, guys, listen to this podcast. He and myself, we have a lot of things in mind. He's on number 2 with 1,100 listeners. And now, Number one, if you believe it or not, it's still the lockdown frogs made by collage artist Shirk and Tara, and it was my first podcast at all, and she's there with 1,050 listeners. Congratulations, Tara! Yeah! Guys, thank you very much that you all were part on this great experience with this podcast. I was already actually thinking doing this live in the West Cork hotel, but due to the COVID and so on, it's very difficult to set up things like this. So these are actually the 10 most listened podcast talk guests, and I was quite happy. It was for me a great experience. Yeah.
Well, long may it continue. Detlef, it's good being talking to you this evening.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you soon.
It's great to hear you, to see you and all that. Thank you very much. And dear guys, again, back to the merchandising hell. This is a listener-supported podcast, and you can... Robert is now in the Hall of ArTEEtude, so I'm gonna set up a mug for Robert and myself, and you guys, you can get them all in my ArTEEtude shop. That's at ArTEEtude.com. That's hang on. That, and I got new things like look here my leggings, Robert. You see, on my plan is because I'm gonna go to Cologne and I probably wear this leggings in the airplane, but I'm not sure if they let me go from Ireland. You know.
You need a license to wear those.
and I made that's where everything comes together. I designed my first traveling bag as well. So this and that and my T-shirt I will promote for ArTEEtude.
I think the hair needs to be dyed yellow as well to match it.
And put some birds into it, some blue one.
Eh?
Yeah. Guys, thank you very much. It was a lovely talk with you, Robert. And we'll see us in the third part next week. And I'm not sure, it's still before Christmas, so I'm looking forward to see you in the third part. Bye, Robert.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
You have listened to ArTEEtude, West Cork's first art, fashion and design podcast. ArTEEtude, never so close again. That was too close.